Hey there, Chris Crowell here with Craft Brewing Business. And today I'm talking about self-distribution. I'm here with Bob Sutzer, co-founder of Wolfs Ridge Brewing in Columbus, Ohio. Hey there, Bob. Did I get your last name right there?
It's Szuter, actually. It's like a
Okay.
silent D. Yep.
It's like one of those things where I never know when I go into it. I'm like, oh, I haven't said this out loud. And then I just do it on the fly. Anyway.
No
Um,
worries.
so I'm very interested to get into how you have pivoted to more self-distribution during this specific time, this COVID crisis that we're in. But I did want you to maybe set the stage first. Kind of where were you at pre-COVID in terms of how sales broke down on premise, off premise, and what you were maybe thinking for the rest of the year.
Yeah, so we had still have a pretty diverse business. When we first started, it was primarily our restaurant and brewery, and we had a small brewery on premise. Since then, that was about 7 years ago, we've added a tap room and then an event space, and now a second production facility site. So pre-COVID, we were about 75% of our total sales were going through the on-premise operation. So that was food, beer, wine, cocktails, etc., going through dining room, event space, and our tap room. Since then, obviously that has shifted dramatically to about 85% or so of our sales going through beer and everything else, and the rest through food carry out and to go business.
Yeah.
So it's been a switch for sure.
Yeah. So that's the part I guess I wanted to get to next. So then, Ohio is one of the first states to, shut things down as well. At the beginning of this, we've reopened since then. But so in that moment, you're stuck where a lot of breweries were, where you're making your buck basically through the tap room. So how did you evaluate your options from there? I guess what was on the table, and how did you land on what you landed on?
Yeah, so we actually, in Ohio and Columbus specifically, in early March, we kind of started to see the writing on the wall. Obviously there was a ton of concern, but you could see that things were slowing down, and the state had canceled what was a large festival, a sports festival in early March. So we started to see that slow down and said, okay, what can we do, with our abilities? And we knew that in Ohio we could ship beer directly to consumers. We didn't know that we could actually deliver it directly to consumers. So for us, it was really quite simple. We had been self-distributing exclusively our entire business career or life. So we sat down with our team and said, hey, can we, how do we do this? So we got with our folks that helped us build the website out and started to implement the shop to be able to set up home delivery, and we did that. Actually had it live almost at the exact same time the governor announced the closure of bars and restaurants. So that first week was pretty intense for a lot of our staff, because not only were we trying to do this and pivot, but there was a ton of fear that was really starting to kind of collapse around us. And so we had some staff that started to back out from wanting to help out, and just stay home and kind of hunker down. So we were, there's this kind of a core group of people that really stepped up and made that happen, and kind of nearly broke a lot of us. So it was pretty tough that first week. But once we kind of got our feet under us, that piece direct to consumer delivery really started to take hold. And we started to build it up and add on other territories throughout the state. And, at the same time, trying to build up our food, beer, or food delivery and carry out service as well.
Gotcha. So how much of a dent do you think that made at that time?
It really surprised us, because it allowed us to keep a pretty decent floor of revenue coming through. Part of that was made doable by the PPP monies that we received. I think if we weren't getting that, it might have been different. We weren't getting any concessions from our landlords and things like that. So that helped kind of set the stage for us to be able to do it. But I think through the first month and a half, maybe, it was probably sales were down maybe 60% overall. with the on-premise being down about 90%.
Wow.
So to have 75% of your business down 90%, but then overall still just be down 60, it was, all due to the ability for us to both deliver direct to consumer and be in cans. We had fortuitously signed up with this production facility in late last year and got a canning line there. So we were able to take a lot of draft beer that we had sitting and move it into cans,
Wow.
and just get a lot of beer out into the market, pretty quickly. So that was a little bit of luck there. But, certainly a lot of hard work on the brewery team. They have not slowed down at all through this period.
Yeah. So in that way, how is your actual capacity change or your production? Are you actually in a way producing more beer, even though you're
obviously the sales through packaged beer are going to be higher on a dollar value, but relatively smaller on a volume basis compared to draft. So we're sales are not down as bad. Volume is up, but not as much as the sales. But we're probably, I think, on pace to maybe do about 4,500 barrels this year, which would be not good with math on the fly here, but about 1,000 barrels over what we did last year on 3,500. So, pretty significant increase given the market. Obviously, we'll see if this continues. I think what we've been seeing over the past month or so is a little bit of a slowdown in our direct-to-consumer delivery service, but a more than offset increase in the off-premise packaged, at retailers. So, it's draft isn't moving. I mean, we're doing a little bit here and there, but it's obviously not moving a lot of beer. So, we're kind of holding out hope that the retail off-premise business continues to grow for us.
So you're mainly exclusively doing self-distribution and not going through a wholesaler. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. I guess, can you dive into that just a little bit more? Like why, how do you do the pros and cons of, working with a wholesaler to handle this and grow your territory? And I assume maybe in a pinch like this, when wasn't your plan going into the year, it would be hard to just instantly, do something totally different.
Yeah. So we've, over the past 7 years kind of always, bring this up multiple times throughout the year. Less as a wholesale, change to do everything through the distributor, but sometimes, hey, should we look at this market and go with the distributor? At the end of the day, so my dad and I are co-owners of this, and really don't like the idea of kind of relinquishing any control over the product and the experience, if we can avoid it. So we've always tried to keep that close to us. We felt like we could give a better buying experience for our customers through a self-distribution model, a more resourceful or responsive experience for them to get the product that they needed. We'll take kegs to good customers, or really any customer, Friday, Saturday, if they're in a pinch, and make sure that they have what they need to get their business. So that was kind of the basis of it. And we've always looked at that as we've gone along. And, at the end of the day, the comments that we're hearing from other breweries, the consolidation in the distributor space, all of that just didn't sit right with us. And we felt that, we weren't really going to gain anything by moving to a distributor. And, in fact, in a lot of situations, we've seen breweries pull back from markets and kind of wait for their contracts to end in those spaces and, go back at it themselves. So, we just never saw the economics of it. And then, coupled with the fact that we thought we could give a better product and experience directly to our customers, it's never really been a compelling option for us. Right now, I think even more so, we like holding on to this. It gives us the opportunity to employ more people directly to our business. So we've got, what we're servers or bussers or, dishwashers and cooks driving beer around the state, driving food locally. And that, wouldn't have been doable, I don't think, if we would have been with a distributor or had gone that route. We would have been, relying on somebody else to work as hard as these guys wanted to work, and girls, and get this keep this going for us.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point there, and kind of feeds into what I was wondering next is just managing, I guess, that responsibility and maybe the extra headaches of this, growing this channel. What were those changes you had to make operationally and with your staff, in terms of like moving around, I guess, the deck chairs there? And were you able to then, I guess it sounds like you were able to keep more employees employed doing this that you would have, during this pandemic, which is like actually pretty cool.
Yeah, that was one of the first things that the day March 16th or whatever that Monday was after they closed bars and restaurants. We sat down with all staff and said, look, we don't know what's going to happen. Go on unemployment. That's an employment benefit that we paid into over the past 7 years. Access it. Do this. We'll figure it out. There was some excitement almost about, all right, like let's figure this out. We're going to make it through this. And then, like I said, it turned to a little bit of fear, and then just a lot of few people overwhelmed with everything that we had to do. But as we ramped it up and people got more comfortable with it, there was a core group of staff that were really excited to be able to have a job and do something other than sit at home. So there were people that were willing and interested in doing it. We were able to do it safely. Contactless delivery. There's not a lot of exposure at all for in the business itself, and then obviously when they go outside. So we set it up safely. Got the folks that had licenses and had cars, and said, hey, do you want to do this? Track mileage, and we'll reimburse them for that. Made sure we were covered under insurance policies for this type of thing, and really. The next biggest component of that was just getting the shop online, where we needed it to be. And that was a bit of a headache. We weren't quite set up to do that, day one, like we wanted to. So there were definitely a lot of, Instagram messages and social media comments about, how do we do this? This isn't working. And so we moved our shop in May to a new platform. And since then it's, worked extremely well. A little bit more customer focused, and that was probably one of the bigger challenges. But since then the response has been really great. I think what it is now is just making sure that we stay top of mind when people think about beer, especially in some of the outer markets that we're now hitting throughout the state. So it's kind of transitioning to how do we market this business and keep it relevant, but at the same time, it's also allowed us to go into some new markets at the wholesale level that we weren't going to do. So, as we're sending direct-to-consumer beer up to Cleveland, for example, we'll try to hit a few, restaurants or bars, or grocery stores, and hopefully move some beer through there as well. And that kind of helps make it financially viable.
Yeah. How far is your radius right now?
Good question. We pretty much go almost everywhere in the state, with the exception of Southwest Ohio, which we may be going there in the near future. But it's there's a few rural counties kind of in the middle of the state that we don't hit necessarily, but it's really the bigger markets of Toledo, Cleveland, Akron, Canton, Cincinnati, Dayton.
I guess last question here is, where you think this now goes? Like, in your mind, is this still like a middle ground? Like, we're just hunkered down, we're doing this to get through this moment, and then when there's a vaccine or the pandemic's kind of over and life's maybe back to normal, are you flipping the switch and going back, or are there? What's the trend line, and what sticks around and what doesn't?
Yeah, so we're kind of looking at this as whatever we do, it needs to be something that we do for the next year. We don't know what's going to happen over that period. It doesn't look like things are going to, get back to any real normal for the foreseeable future. So we're going down the path of what's going to give us the best chance at success in kind of an unknown market. And this part of the business is that. We've heard from a lot of folks that, they hope that this sticks around when things go back to normal. Now, obviously, we'll see if their buying habits change. But, one thing that on the restaurant side, that we really I think missed before this was the shift to food delivery and carryout services, and how much that kind of was eating into some of our taproom revenue and maybe some of the restaurant revenue as well. So we've gone harder into that, and that will stay. But I think the beer delivery service will definitely stay. And I think it's, if we can continue to give people a good product and a compelling, reason to use this, this channel for us, then I think they'll stick around for it.
Well, and I can hear the kids beating on your door, or intruding the crawl space that you found to accommodate my interview today. So I don't want to keep you much longer. It sounds like someone needs fed or something. But for more COVID recovery stories and general brewery business insight, head to craftbrewingbusiness.com. I'm not kidding. Do it right now.